This is episode 2 of creating my very own finance app from scratch. You can watch episode 1 in my channel if you haven't. But in this episode, I will talk more about how I learned full stack, how API works, and the dummy projects that I did. So let's go. From what I learned, this is how full stack works. I will explain it in as simple detail as possible. When the user goes to a certain URL or route, the front end, what the user sees and interacts with, sends a request to the backend. The backend will do a certain function that interacts with the database. The backend could either get all the data from the database, get specific data from the database, add data to the database, delete data from the database, and update data from the database. For the backend to do this, it uses REST API. An API or application programming interface is like a messenger which can interact with the client, aka the user of the website, and the server which can store data, manage data, etc. It is like a waiter in a restaurant. When you request for a broccoli in the restaurant, the waiter will bring the request to the kitchen. Then the kitchen will cook the broccoli. Once it's done, the waiter will bring the broccoli from the kitchen to you. Then you will receive the cooked broccoli in response to your request by ordering it. You are the client, the kitchen is the server, the waiter is the API. Right before giving it to you, the broccoli that goes to you have to look nice and appetizing, which is the job of the front end. The front end ensures that the data received from the back end is displayed in an attractive and user-friendly manner. Maybe there's a person beside you that makes the broccoli received from the waiter looks nice before serving you. This is generally how API and full stack works. But there are different kinds of requests that you can send to the server. Let me explain. There are generally 4 different kinds of requests: get, post, delete, patch. If you order the whole menu and you get the whole menu in return from the restaurant, that is a get request. If you order a raw chicken from the menu and you get a raw chicken in return from the restaurant, that is a get request, but specifically the chicken. If you have a recipe you would like to share to the kitchen and the kitchen adds the recipe in their menu, this is a post request. If you are angry that the raw chicken is raw and the kitchen removes the raw chicken from the menu, it is a delete request. If you want to add a broccoli to their chicken recipe and the kitchen updates the recipe in their menu, it is a patch request. So in full stack language, the menu is the database, the kitchen is the function that interacts with the database, which is called model, which I will explain later. With the theory out of the way, let's get practical. How I learned full stack is the same as how I learned backend. It is from a YouTuber called NetNinja. Surprisingly or not, he also has a playlist where he teaches how to do full stack project. It is not perfect as there are some errors here and there when I follow his videos, but the concepts are there. The major error that took me long enough to figure out is linking backend and frontend together, which is the main point of full stack. But I have a section on how I do it in the next chapter. In the playlist, he shows how to set up routes and APIs for different scenarios that you will face in a website, how to set up the database for application to interact with, how to set up frontend, how to allow frontend to retrieve data from the backend, how to create a form to add data to the database, and more. Then with what I learned, I implemented it in a dummy finance app. I basically built the exact same thing that he showed, but put in the context of a finance tracker. What I mean is replacing workout that he uses as an example with jobs. The following is the vague process of how I program full stack. I recommend watching NetNinja's videos on the more details of each step. So yeah, I installed all dependencies that are required like Express, MongoDB, Mongoose, .env, etc. I type in npm init-y. I set up the Express API needed, putting all the route functions in a separate file for organization. I set up my MongoDB Atlas database. I linked the database to Express. I created a schema, a way to format a data, and a model, which is like a function to interact with the database. I created a function to get all the jobs, get a single job, add a job, delete a single job, and update a single job. I set up my React app, installed React Router to do the routing at the front end. I installed CORS at the back end so that the front end can receive the data from the back end. More detail on how I do it in the next chapter. I allow the app to use CORS at the back end. In the front end, I fetch the data, put it in a JSON format, and put it in a variable called a jobs using useState. Then I call this function in a useEffect hook. And lastly, I play with the data. When I created a new form, I allow the data collected from the form to be posted to the main page, then reset the input field. I use React context to update the page whenever I add or delete a job. I recommend watching NetNinja's video for more info because it is very complicated, to be honest. If I'm stuck when coding the project, I will ask ChatGPT for help or refer back to the YouTube videos. After creating the simple app, I will just jot down the notes on how I do each step, and then so that I can refer to it the next time when I want to create a full stack app. How the front end and the back end is linked is pretty simple. The back end will send the data, usually in the form of JSON. Then the front end will fetch it from the back end, which can be used in the front end. This is done with a mechanism called CORS, or cross-origin resource sharing. So the steps go something like this. Step 1. Install CORS in the backend folder by changing the directory to the backend, and then typing npm install CORS. Step 2. Import CORS to the backend app.js. Step 3. Make sure the app is also using express.json so that the JSON data can be registered. Step 4. Add a front end in whatever page you want to put the data in. Import useState. Step 5. Define the name of the data being received. In this case, is the jobs. And then set jobs equals useState with the original value of now. Step 6. Import useEffect and in it, create a fetch data function, in this case fetch jobs. Make the function an async function. Step 7. Define the data you get from fetching them from the backend as response. Step 8. Convert it to JSON and put it in the variable of JSON. Step 9. Check if the response have no error. If there is no error, set the jobs as the JSON. Step 10. Call the fetch data function in the useEffect. And then step 11. Play with your data. I learned all this from a YouTube video which I will link down below. So yeah, this is how I learn and practice my full stack project. Anyways, that's my opinion. Bye.